Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I'm Mitchell Muroff, and I'm honored to be presenting this year's Hospitality Market Review. Daigle Commercial Group has long been the leader in hospitality brokerage in the state of Maine, and I'm proud to be associated with my colleagues Roger Daigle and Nick Farrell. Our affiliated offices can provide hospitality brokerage, development, and advisory services throughout the Northeast and beyond, and we look forward to serving you. Today's agenda will take a hard look at the current trends and forecasts for the U.S. hospitality market, as well as what's happening in our major markets here in Maine. We'll review the national and regional statistics, market trends, and then take a peek at some of the many notable transactions that have occurred this past year. Finally, we'll conclude our presentation by telling you what's in the development pipeline and the outlook for 2017. So let's begin. The changing supply-demand dynamics have tipped the balance as the occupancy has begun to slightly decrease this year after an amazing 8-year run. Uncertainty on both the international and domestic fronts continues to influence the U.S. lodging industry. Economists have voiced concern that the president-elect's yet unidentified long-term stance on key economic policies, including trade agreements, infrastructure spending, and monetary policy, may affect corporate transient demand and, to a lesser extent, consumer spending in the leisure transient market that comprises so much of our local business. U.S. occupancy. The U.S. occupancy has remained level at 65.5% in 2015, 65.6% in 2016, and it's projected to be 65.3% in 2017. U.S. ADR, on contrast, the average daily rate, ADR, has continued to climb from $120 in 2015 to $124 in 2016, and is projected to rise to $128 this coming year. U.S. RevPAR, revenue per available room. Consequently, we're seeing a steady increase in RevPAR from 78.67 in 2015 to 81.17 in 2016, to a projection of $82.50 in 2017, fueled mainly by an increase in ADR while occupancy remains flat. RevPAR growth, U.S. and chain scales. We saw significant RevPAR growth in 2016 and will continue to see it through 2017, although to a slightly lesser degree. Note that the largest growth is in the independent hotels market, fueled mostly by the thriving boutique hotel business. Additionally, the economy and mid-scale chains continue to grow at a healthy rate. The luxury market is seeing the least growth in RevPAR this past year. This chart points out that the highest demand is coming from the upscale and upper mid-scale chains this year, and that the least demand is being seen in the economy and independent sectors. It's also noteworthy to see that the supply appears to be finally mirroring that of demand. The occupancy in the state of Maine has steadily increased since 2009, in contrast to the U.S. occupancy, which has remained stagnant these last few years. In 2015, Maine occupancy was 56.8%, rising to 59.9% this past year, and is forecast to be 60% in 2017. Consistent with the national trend, the average daily rate, ADR, in the state of Maine has continued to increase for the last 8 years. The ADR in 2015 was $119.51, rising to $122.80 in 2016, and it's projected to be $125 in 2017, all just slightly behind the U.S. averages. Consequently, the Maine RevPAR has steadily increased to $73 for next year, up from $67 in 2015 and $70.50 in 2016. It's been a great run, it really has been. Current trends. As a result of supply catching up with demand, 2016 saw a relatively flat occupancy rate. Construction costs increase, and more conservative underwriting may have slowed down the supply trend. New supply and increased competition continues through shared lodging hosts such as Airbnb. Airbnb has continued to adapt and pay particular attention to guest experience, as evidenced by its focus on its trips, places, and homes. Cap rates have increased about 20 to 30 basis points compared to 2015. In particular, to the lodging segment, cap rates have been more favorable to the franchised and branded hotels than to independent properties, especially those affiliated with Marriott, Hilton, and IHG. And expenses keep rising, and RevPAR finally appears to be increasing at lower rates than expenses. Rising wages and labor shortages are more prevalent than ever, and as a result, we find that employers are seeking more flexibility from their staff and increasing the responsibilities of many employees to combat labor shortages and the new minimum wage laws. 2017 trends. Technology continues to excite us and improve on a daily basis. Mobile apps are increasingly prevalent. In fact, guests expect to see a steady increase of services on those mobile apps. There's a continued reliance on online travel agencies, such as Expedia and Booking.com. Millennials are using OTAs at an exceptionally high rate, and we expect to see a 5% increase in bookings made through OTAs in 2017. And co-living is the new buzz phrase, and millennials are looking more and more for a sense of community when traveling. We're seeing an increase in common living areas and in kitchens, and we're also seeing more of an emphasis on common areas during construction and the renovation of existing hotels and properties. Nonetheless, security presents front and center, and as such, traditional hotels with security cameras, uniformed guards, and electronic door locks are often the only choice for many business and leisure travelers as compared to the inconsistency offered by Airbnb. The Portland market continues to thrive. The demand remains high due to many factors, including Portland's exceptional quality of life and the microbrewing and foodie craze that's taken over in recent years. There are currently 2,685 lodging rooms in Portland, with about 5,500 in the greater Portland area. Lodging sales are reported to be almost $87 million through September, and there's a healthy supply of new rooms in the pipeline. Portland's occupancy is up 4.6% to 63.4. Its ADR is up 4.7% to 133, and its RevPAR is up a whopping 9.5% to $84.54. The Augusta, Maine South market has also shown a healthy increase in RevPAR this year. It's up 6.4% to 69.02. Its occupancy rose 4.6 to 55.3, and the average daily rate rose 1.7 to $124. Shorter stays and the use of online travel agencies increased revenue even with the weakened Canadian dollar. And in terms of new supply, the Hilton Home & Suites entered the Augusta market this year as a great addition to the extended stay market. The downtown revitalization in the Bangor, Maine North market, including the Hollywood Casino, has contributed to a whopping 10.4% rise in revenue, in RevPAR, to $67.85 this year in the Bangor, Maine North market. Note that this increase was comprised of 4.7 in ADR, average daily rate, and 4.7 increase in occupancy to almost 60% occupancy. Mid-Coast and Bar Harbor. There are approximately 4,100 guest rooms in the Bar Harbor Mid-Coast market, comprised of 478 in Camden, 317 in Rockland, 177 in Lincolnville, 400 in Rockport, and close to 2,700 guest rooms in Bar Harbor. Lodging sales in Bar Harbor were up over 14% this past year. And 250 Maine, a 26-room boutique hotel, came into the market, and the Rockland Harbor Hotel was beautifully reborn from the former Navigator, a transaction that we at Daigle Commercial Group brokered. Now to some notable transactions of this past year. 2 South Portland hotels were sold together earlier this year as a package. The Marriott Hotel, a 226-room full-service property, was sold along with the 130-room Holiday Inn Express for an undisclosed amount, but believed to be in the $30 million range for both hotels. The Hampton Inn Waterville and the Hampton Inn Freeport were also sold as a package for $16.9 million, or approximately $100,000 per key. Daigle Commercial Group recently sold the Ramada Saco Hotel and Conference Center, a full-service hotel with a dedicated entrance right off I-95. We closed that transaction in mid-December at a sales price of about $5.5 million. This is a fine example of how an off-market property can secure a qualified buyer. The South Portland Econo Lodge was exchanged hands for $2.5 million in December as well, another transaction that we were involved in. We also sold 2 hotels in Ogunquit this year, a 14-room Inn on Shore Road near Perkins Cove, and the 71-room Colonial Village Resort on Route 1. This lovely resort property sits on almost 5 acres and includes both an indoor and outdoor swimming pool, a tennis court, direct beach access, and a full complement of guest rooms, cottages, and suites. The Colonial Village Resort sold for $5.5 million this past spring. About a year ago, we sold Lincoln Bay Resort in Boothbay Harbor for approximately $4 million. This irreplaceable 20-acre oceanfront resort, complete with 5 lodges and 35 cabins, had been in the same family for more than 3 generations. It was a very complicated transaction for many reasons, but we got it done. The Vacation Land Inn in Brewer, Maine sold for $2.5 million. This 111-room interior corridor independent property has an array of guest rooms and suites. Other notable sales include Casco Bay Inn, comprised of 47 rooms, which sold for $3 million, and the Legends by the Bay in Rockport, 38 rooms for $2.1. Finally, we sold the historic Lucerne Inn in Dedham, Maine this past spring for $2.3 million. This iconic property has operated continuously for over 200 years and sits on almost 10 acres adjacent to beautiful Phillips Lake. The Lucerne Inn has 31 guest rooms and suites, beautiful fine dining restaurant, and banquet facilities to accommodate 300 guests or more. Truth be told, we sold this inn, and in fact, now I own a little piece of this lovely historic property myself. (2016) transactions review. The national sales volume is projected to increase at the rate of 6.5%. The hospitality sales volume in Maine was approximately $856 million, and up close to 10% through September 2016. There's a depleted inventory of economy and limited service hotels that are available, and we're continuing to see more and more multi-property buyers and REITs acquire select service hotels across the nation, competing with the individual buyers in the local markets. In fact, it's becoming increasingly more difficult for the little guy to compete in the select service world, yet there are still many brands that are not yet affected by this phenomenon. Let's talk a little bit about the development pipeline. This past year, there were 239 new guest rooms that opened in Maine. The Oxford Hampton Inn added 93 rooms. The Augusta Homewood Suites added 120. And 250 Maine added 26 boutique guest rooms in Rockland Harbor. The pipeline for 2017 looks great as well. A 73-room Hampton Inn is under construction in Kennebunk. The Francis, a 15-room boutique hotel, is in the planning stages on the East End in Portland. And the AC Hotel on 4th Street, a 150-room Marriott property in its Autograph collection, is now under construction. In South Portland, 2 new Hilton-branded hotels are under construction as well on Maine Mall Road, the 98-room True by Hilton and the 110-room Home 2 Suites. And finally, a new independent hotel is under construction adjacent to the Oxford Casino. A new 60 Best Western on Route 2 in Rumford is planned, and a 42-room boutique hotel in downtown Waterville is on the planning stages too, bringing the whole total projected rooms this coming year to almost 650 guest rooms. The dust is beginning to settle now with Marriott's acquisition of Starwood. We wonder if we'll see any more mergers in 2017. Will Hilton be the next big brand to make the next big move? Average daily rate, we believe, will continue to increase at the rate of 3 to 5%, and we'll see RevPAR, revenue per available room, increase at the rate of 2 to 3%. We expect to see multi-property ownership and REITs continue to dominate the market as buyers of branded hotels primarily affiliated with Marriott, Hilton, and Intercontinental Hotel Group. And we expect to see continued growth in the economy and limited service segments as well. Well, it's been my pleasure to spend this time with you, and I'd like to thank Maine Innkeepers, the American Hotel and Lodging Association, and Maine Course Hospitality for their assistance and contributions to this presentation. As we approach tomorrow's inauguration, it's important to understand that the hospitality industry is impacted by so many different things: the strength of the US dollar, Brexit, the energy sector, as well as our general economic policies and trade agreements. So let's wish the new administration well. And finally, let's all be thankful that we're living and working in this beautiful state of Maine. May it continue to thrive as America's vacation land throughout our nation and around the world. Thank you very much.